The Susan Brender Show is a radio show online broadcasted on YouTube across the United States and globally. The show features guests who speak about health, spirituality, entertainment, and a host of subjects to enlighten people across the nation. Listen to the show that empowers women and men alike and highlights those who have made a difference. I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Today we have a regular on the show. His name is Scott Miller, and he's a physical therapist in Florida. And I want to welcome Scott to the show to really address some of the issues that are so important for people suffering today. And there are so many people out there all over the world who have all kinds of issues. And Scott is going to answer some of the questions that you probably have for him. So here it goes. Scott, physical therapy is very effective. I know that because I'm one of the people who get it. And I know that the chiropractic care also is interesting too. But today we're just going to talk about physical therapy. Spinal misalignment may be the result of chronic poor posture, weak muscle support, or poor workplace ergonomics that force unnatural positions. Now, I want to just continue saying what else it does. And, there is something called degenerative disc disease and other related spinal changes that can also affect spinal alignment. So, Scott, explain what that means and how do you operate? What do you do for the patient?
Well, first, Sue, I want to thank you very much for having me on your show again. It's always a pleasure being here, and I'd be happy to answer questions related to the human body and how physical therapy can certainly help with some of these dysfunctions. And with back patients with back issues, degenerative disc disease is probably one of the more common ailments that we do see. Certainly as you start aging, and it's more of a chronic issue that develops in your spine where basically your spinal discs start to wear down. And basically you're starting to lose that cushioning between the vertebrae. And your vertebrae and the discs actually are acting as your shock absorbers to help you move, bend, and twist comfortably. So when you start to degenerate and you start to lose those the discs, similar to a car where you start to lose the shock absorption, it puts a great strain on the muscles and on the other joints in your body. So we need to address that with each specific patient depending on what they're experiencing because of this degenerative disc disease.
Yeah, I understand that. And, one of the things that is really important is that people have alignment issues. If you come to a physical therapist, there's a way in which you probably do something to the spine that really sets it on the right path, if you will. So what is it when you have that spine alignment, exactly what do you do?
Well, with physical therapy, the treatment is going to vary based on the specific patient. So, no treatment is really going to be the exact same, and we're going to do a full assessment on that specific patient to see where a misalignment could be. And, in a lot of cases, we are the movement specialists. So we, as physical therapists, we're going to certainly see where some of that movement dysfunction is in the back or the hip, and we're going to certainly develop a treatment program to help with that, and that includes a lot of good stretching and exercises to help let's say the proper to help properly align your posture. There's a lot of good hands-on manual treatment that could be done too that really helps really helps a patient with some of their symptoms and to help loosen up some of these muscles that are causing some of the malalignment of the spine and the hips.
Yeah. Do you treat patients of all ages with a variety of health conditions?
Sure. We, in my specific practice, we treat patients, general, orthopedic patients, ranging in age from 7 or 8 years old to, 100-year-old, depending on what is going on. But in general, physical therapy is, there's multiple disciplinaries that are fall under physical therapy, and there are physical therapists that specialize in pediatrics and newborns, and there's others that might specialize more in geriatrics or the general population. So really, physical therapists in general treat the wide gamut of age ranges.
Yeah, I told you that we were not going not to talk about chiropractic today, but I am interested in one thing. What's the difference between what you do and what a chiropractor does?
Well, chiropractors or chiropractic care really emphasizes the diagnosis and treatment of the mechanical disorders of the spine and the joints. Really focusing, I guess, more on how the joints can influence the whole nervous system and overall body alignment. And, physical therapy, we're looking at it from a similar standpoint, but maybe not as much of a focus on the how the entire body is completely aligned, and we work on trying to work on their specific movement inabilities or some of their movement dysfunction so that we can help them move better, maybe have better posture, which ultimately will improve their overall alignment.
Yeah. How often do most people come to your office if they're involved in a treatment that is taking care of them? Do they come once a week? Do they come twice a week? What is really necessary to really solve their situation?
And again, every single patient that we see really comes in with different severities of their injury or ailment or problem. And at that initial evaluation, that is where the physical therapist will establish a plan of care. And during that plan of care, it's going to be determined whether, a patient will do well with just, one treatment, once a week or every other week, where we can, educate them on the proper things that they could be doing at home, and they don't need a lot of hands-on treatment, and they can really do well and meet their goals at that rate. And then there's other patients that we really need to see 3 days a week. Sometimes it's post-operative patients, sometimes it's patients in really severe pain, and we need to do a lot of hands-on and manual treatment, and there's things that they cannot do on their own. So, we do recommend those patients, 2 to 3 times a week in those cases.
Yeah. Walk me through a situation, Scott, where I come into your office and or your clinic or whatever you want to call it, and I tell you, I'm in a lot of pain. My back is hurting, my neck is hurting. All these things are happening to me, and I want to know and I want to understand how I get the proper treatment and what is the proper treatment. Now, you've told me a little bit about that already, and I want to jump a little bit further. Is there a particular case that you have got involved in that was really unusual? And if you have had that, what was it all about?
There's not one particular case that I can think of at the top of my head right now, but, like I said, every single patient presents differently and has to be, treated on an individual case-by-case basis. And, if someone comes in and they're in, moderate to severe pain, first we need to establish, what the cause of this pain is, why they're, what symptoms they're having, and we need to calm that down, and we need to try to alleviate some of their pain, because usually there's a whole pain cycle where, if someone has pain, it's going to cause their muscles and their joints to, go into spasm and to tighten up further, and that's going to, in turn, limit their movement and their function, and more limited movement and function is going to result in, even more pain and tightness in the muscles and joints. So it's one big cycle. So we really need to break that cycle. We need to try to calm their pain down, and that's done whether it's some of the modalities that we use here with electrical stimulation and heat or ice. sometimes it's hands-on manual treatment that's going to relax the muscles and calm it down. And then at that point, we need to address the cause, the root cause of what's going on. And that might be, a spinal alignment issue. It could be, their movement of their hips is not right. And that's at the point where we have to work on strengthening and stretches and their movement patterns to improve their overall function.
Yeah. Many months ago, you and I talked a little bit about the virus and how it has an effect on people because of all the stress that they're going through. And at that time, you explained what basically was happening. I'm curious because we're almost at the end, if you will, of this virus because everybody is starting to take shots and they're really getting better, if you will. Now, if you saw somebody who was really, really suffering because of the stress. Now, I mentioned the word stress. I'll talk about our military. I'll talk about our police. I'll talk about the people who are the, first responders, if you will. Do you see any of them? And what is the situation with them? Meaning that if you're a military man, you're carrying a huge pack on your back, huge, 100 pounds, if anything. And when you come home from wherever you were doing your job, you find that, oh, my God, what is the effect? Oh, my God, it's so bad. Do you experience and have you treated people in the military and policemen as well? I'm just curious about that, Scott.
Sure, we see active and retired military in my practice, and we do see a lot of first responders here as well, both paramedics, firefighters, police officers. And, every one of them kind of, presents differently, but has their own level of stresses and, body stresses and mental stresses as well. And, we not only are trying to treat their movement dysfunction or try to help with their pain, but, as a therapist, we certainly are here to listen to their issues and really try to talk through their pain and what might be causing it. So, and how it relates to, the last 18 months or, that we've had COVID, there certainly we've seen certainly a big influx of patients with, COVID-type symptoms even after they have been recovered. So that certainly is something that we have seen quite a bit over the last year or so.
I'm going to throw this at you, Scott. People, because of the situation that's going on, and I mentioned the word stress, needless to say, people are suffering like that. But, there's issues that are, I'm going to call it mental disorders that have, come up since almost since the time, I can't even explain how many, years people are suffering from mental disease. Now, when you work on them, okay, and you find that all their alignment is not good, all the things that you talked about need help, do you find that when you finally get them to where they need to be, okay, at the end of their suffering, mental disease, when you're in pain, there is nothing worse. Pain causes all kinds of issues, right? And when you're dealing with that, what is it that you think about what you do? And now, I know that sounds a little weird, but what I mean is when you see somebody who has suffered and has come into your office and now they're, out of pain, how does it make you feel?
Well, it's one of the reasons why I got into this field over 20 years ago. It certainly is very, very rewarding, and it really makes me proud that me and my team can certainly help not only the active military or our first responders, but just our general population when they're when we help them return to the normal daily activities that they want to get back to, because whether it's work-related, whether it's just going out there and walking or biking or playing tennis, when you're injured, you can't do any of these. And it's definitely a strain on your whole mental well-being when you're, disabled or unable to do these certain activities. So it certainly is very, very nice to see that transition, of the patient's whole mental well-being of when maybe they first come in to when we discharge them and they're doing very well and back to their old self, let's say, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, I hear you. Last but not least, what I'm curious about is the whole notion that when you first started, okay, up until now, has there been a difference in your treatment? You started how many years ago, Scott?
I've had my practice for 15 years, and I've been a physical therapist for about 18 years now.
Wow. Have you seen a difference in the way that you perform your duties, or the way people come into your office, meaning that there's kind of a difference in the way that you do your treatment?
Well, I've developed a nice system and a nice approach to how we treat patients. So, patients that I've seen, 10 years ago know, and are coming back now, really kind of know what to expect from the care that they're going to receive here. And again, everything is patient specific. So certain things of their treatment are certainly going to be different. But as far as there are new technologies that we have been using. There's always new exercises that we learn and new hands-on treatments that we do learn along the way with continuing education. But for the most part, the how we approach the treatment and kind of the sequence of how we do a treatment has stayed pretty consistent throughout the years, which I know my patients are very, they really do like that consistency and know what they're expecting when they do return, and it's not a completely different type of place if they come back a couple of years later.
Yeah, we're almost at the end of the show, Scott. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that is very important for people to hear? Because needless to say, I think you covered everything. But that brings me to one last thing. How do people get in touch with you, and where are you located? Now, keep in mind that we're all over the world. You can listen to the Susan Brender Show on YouTube and all kinds of social media platforms. But I want to know where you're located and how they get in touch with you.
Well, I'm located. My physical office is located in Delray Beach, Florida. Conveniently, about a mile from the ocean, close to the highway. It's a very nice little town here in Florida. And if you are not from the area, my website, which is www.miller-pt.com, has a lot of information, a lot of really great articles about a lot of different conditions and how physical therapy can help these conditions. And there's a way to contact me as well. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to help you out with that as well. And then we also do offer telehealth. We have a really nice telehealth platform, so essentially we are accessible to pretty much anybody in the world if they have a computer and internet access.
Well, I want to thank Scott Miller, who's a regular on the Susan Brender Show, and he has really given you information and education that really is important. So, if you are suffering, if you are in pain, he's the guy to go to. Scott Miller, thank you very much for being on the Susan Brender Show.
Well, thank you. Thank you again, Sue, for having me. It's always a pleasure joining your show.